This episode may contain content of a graphic nature, including descriptions of physical and sexual violence against adults, children, and animals. Listener discretion is advised. Hi everyone, I'm Talia.
And I'm Tanya.
And together we are Crimes and Consequences, a true crime podcast. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Talia.
How are you?
I am doing great. It's Monday, so I'm a little tired.
Yeah, Mondays suck. Are you ready, though, for today's episode?
I am, and I don't know this story, so I am very interested to learn what happens.
I have named this serial killer the Panty Sniffing Serial Killer. That's what we're calling him.
Gross. Okay.
I didn't actually come up with the name Panty Sniffer. That was given to him by his friends and family.
Oh, that wasn't your original name?
I'm going to start this out by talking about who we know for a fact was a victim of the Panty Sniffer. I'm not sure if she's his first victim. We'll never really actually know who his first victim was, but technically she is labeled his first victim. Her name is Margaret Eby. Her family, in this case, did share information for a book about her.
And what book was that?
The book that I read was called Blood Justice, and it is by Tom Henderson. You can go to our website and find a link for the book and buy it on our website. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's get to the story.
Yes, let's get to the story.
Margaret Eby was a very interesting person. She was born around 1931. When she was 18, she married a Stuart Eby. They had 4 children, and she ended up getting a bachelor's degree, then a master's degree, then a PhD in musicology from the University of Michigan. Unfortunately for Margaret, her husband, Stuart, died in 1975 at the age of 46. He had a heart attack during sex.
Oh, God. That's like my worst nightmare. How awkward.
Oh.
Poor Margaret.
So she was a widow by the time she was 44. In 1977, after Margaret's husband died, she took a job out of state as the dean at the University of Northern Iowa. In the spring of 1981, she got a job back in Michigan as a provost at University of Michigan Flint campus.
What's a provost?
I was hoping you would ask, because I didn't know either. A provost is a senior administrative officer in certain colleges and universities.
Okay.
Before she left Iowa, she also made sure that she got tenured as a teacher at U of M. She was a lay minister. She was director of the local classical music radio station. And she lived at a place called the Mott's Estate. Have you ever heard of that?
I think maybe.
You think maybe?
I think maybe.
Well, Mott's Estate is a half-mile-long cultural center in Flint. It used to be the 18-bedroom house of a really wealthy man, Mr. Mott's. On the Mott's Estate is a gatehouse. The gatehouse is a 2-story house. That is where Margaret lived.
So she lives on the estate?
She lives on the estate in a gatehouse. And the estate itself, this mansion-like thing, is used as a cultural center. Margaret had a big personality. She liked to walk around her house naked. She liked to sunbathe naked. A lot of the Mott's Estate employees saw her walk around naked. She didn't have curtains in her window.
Girl.
People described Margaret as being a perfectionist. She was very well liked by her friends and equally disliked by her coworkers.
Oh, no.
She was described as abrasive and demeaning, and she eventually got fired from her position as a provost. But she still was tenured, so they couldn't get rid of her.
She could go back and still be a professor.
Yes, exactly. There was a time when Margaret's grown daughter, Lynn, came to live with her. She was having a bit of marital problems. Lynn came home at 3 a.m., and she found the house was very messy. Margaret was sleeping at the time. When Margaret woke up in the morning, Margaret found the house messy. And Margaret woke up Lynn, and she's like, "Why did you leave this huge mess when I went to bed? It was clean." They both figured out that neither one of them made that mess. And it was their underwear and dresser drawers. Everything had been made a big fat mess. In October of 1986, when Margaret was 55, she woke up in the middle of the night and there was a man standing in her room. She screamed and the man fled. The next month, on November 7th specifically, Margaret and 3 friends were going to go to a friend's house and have dinner. Her 3 friends were William, John, and Soden. They picked her up at 6:15 at the gatehouse, and they went to their friend's house. They had a lovely dinner. Around 11 o'clock, William, John, and Soden dropped Margaret off. These guys were gentlemen. They all got out of the car, and they walked her to the front door. Her key wouldn't work, so they walk her around to the side door. The key works. She walks inside. They wave goodbye. 2 of them tell her, we'll see you at 4 on Sunday. They're going to come back at 4 on Sunday. They're going to dig up her geraniums, and they're going to go plant them in their yard. That's the last time anybody sees Margaret alive. The next morning, Saturday, Margaret is supposed to pick up her granddaughter, Jessie, from Detroit and take her to the Detroit Institute of Art.
Oh, that's a great place.
It is. Jessie's 3.
Oh.
That's just how Margaret was. Margaret didn't show up to pick up Jessie. Lynn wasn't too concerned because her mom had 5 things going at once, and she thought maybe her mom just forgot. The next day, Sunday, at 4:08, John and Soden showed up to the gatehouse. When they got there, they noticed the front door was ajar. They shut the door and knocked. She didn't answer.
They shut the door and knocked?
Yes, they're very nice. They decided to go in. They go in, they see her purse and keys. They yell louder, Margaret! And there's no answer. So John goes upstairs. He could see Margaret's dead body through her open bedroom door. They freak out. They call the police, and the police show up. When the police got there, they noticed all the windows were locked, and all the doors were locked with deadbolts, except for the front door. And there were no curtains in her bedroom. The bathroom was clean, except for 1 drop of blood next to the sink. There was a jackknife on the sink, and there was a partial print on the sink. That's going to be a very important clue. And this is going to get graphic for about 1 minute, so I would just fast forward if you don't want to hear me describe the crime scene. Margaret was found on her bed, on her stomach. She had been bound at one point, but her wrists were untied. She had a 2-inch wide cut on her neck that went from ear to ear.
Ooh.
Her necklace was found in the gaping wound.
Oh.
She was stabbed in the neck and sawed in the neck. The medical examiner had determined that her neck wound was a result of being sawed back and forth with a serrated knife. She was nude. She'd been raped once while alive and once when she was dead.
Oh, God. How do they know that?
I know how they know that.
You do?
But I don't want to share.
You can tell me later.
I'll tell you later.
Oh, my God.
But there is a way to determine it based on the body's reaction. Let's just leave it at that. The book described it. I'm not going to describe it. You guys can Google it. You can Google it. Just Google it.
Just Google it.
Privately Google. No one will know. Just trust me, there's a way. Okay? There's a way. Her body was purposely placed in the position to be shocking. Her legs were spread apart. She had a yellow bathrobe that was next to her with the cuff of it missing. The cuff had been cut off and placed on the dresser. She was lying on top of an electric blanket that was turned to 7. So by the time they'd found her, the seminal fluid was degraded. So in the future, when DNA testing was available, they were not able to test this fluid because the heat had caused such degradation. There was wire found on the floor, and that was the wire they believe was used to bind her wrists. They know the killer had taken his time. It wasn't a quick death. There was some torture involved with a knife. The medical examiner also noted in his autopsy that she had undigested raw vegetables. The undigested raw vegetables were from the dinner on Friday night. Based on the medical examiner's notes, she was either killed or in extreme fear as soon as she got home on Friday night after the dinner. In her CD player at the time of death was the song Death in the Maiden, which is a classical piece by Schubert. They don't know if that's coincidental or intentional.
That is a crazy coincidence if it is.
A week after the murders, one of Margaret's students called the police in a panic. She had taken her dog to a dog obedience class, and she went back to her car to go home. When she got in the car and shut the door, a man, he was in the back seat, was holding a pair of pruning shears to her neck. He told her if you don't cooperate, he was going to cut off her ear and mail it to her parents, and then he would kill her like he did Margaret. The woman's dog, God bless this dog, he started barking and bit him.
Oh my goodness.
And this was why she was driving. The man made her pull over to the side of the road, and he opened the door, and he got out, and he dragged the dog out of the car. When he did that, she floored it and took off. The dog managed to break free from the man, chased after her car. She stopped her car.
Stop it.
Picked up her dog.
Oh, that is hilarious.
I went to the police.
Aw, she loved that dog.
I know. Well, the dog saved her life.
Yeah, seriously. I guess you couldn't leave him behind.
Yeah. I would have.
I'm thinking I might have.
He's not going to kill the dog. He doesn't want to kill the dog. Come on. The police never found whoever did that. The investigation produced no real suspects and no solid leads. So remember, they had that partial fingerprint?
Yes.
There was no integrated automated fingerprinting information system known as IAFIS, which is a searchable database for all fingerprints in all 50 states in the United States. There was a system in place for each individual state, but not one that connected all of the states. That was something the FBI was still working on, and that would take years before they completed that. This is obviously way before DNA testing was even an option available for law enforcement. 1987 comes and goes, and there's no suspects, no new clues, no new leads. The same can be said for 1988 and 1989 and 1990. While Margaret's case is getting colder by the day, a new crime takes place in 1991. I'm going to tell you about Nancy Ludwig. Nancy Ludwig was a flight attendant. She was 41 years old, and she lived in Minnesota. Nancy married an amazing guy in 1978 named Art. He loved Nancy, and Nancy loved him. They got married in 1978. She was 18 years younger than him, and by all accounts, they had a great life together. They were a very active couple who spent all their time together. They didn't have any kids, that's why.
Yeah, right?
That's why. Otherwise, they need some time apart.
Yeah.
Nancy worked for Northwest Airlines, and they called her in to fly to Detroit to stay overnight. On Sunday, February 17th, 1991, Art drove Nancy to the airport. He said goodbye, gave her a kiss. She flew into Detroit and took the shuttle to the Hilton. Now, Northwest at the time would put all of its employees at the Hilton, which was across from the airport. A little thing I found out is they would not pay for their employees to stay overnight on the first floor of any hotel because that was the most unsafe and most likely floor to have break-ins.
Well, that's a mental note.
At the Hilton, because they have a contract with Northwest, they have a sheet out front with the names of all the employees, their flight numbers for arrival, the time of the arrival, the time of their departure, their room number, and their keys are left out and available.
Are you shitting me?
I'm not shitting you.
Is this like for anybody in the public could grab it?
Yeah. Anybody in the public can look and see, oh, Nancy's, her flight is flight blah, blah, blah. It's arriving at blah, blah, blah. So she's going to be coming over on a shuttle, and this is going to be her room number. On that same day, a fellow employee of Nancy's, Ann Johnson, was staying at the Hilton during the day for her 5-hour layover. It was really cold in Michigan in February. For anybody that's never been to Michigan in February, it's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
Anne wants to go for a jog, but it's so shitty out that she decides to run up and down the stairs of the hotel. And then in between running up and down the stairs, she would walk through the hallways. When she got to the third floor, she saw a creepy man with a duffel bag. And he creeped her out so much, she went back to her room. Then, a couple hours later, 2 other flight attendants were getting some ice, and they saw this man acting kind of strange by the vending machine. He was trying to hide his face from them, not really looking at purchasing any of the items. They went back to their rooms after they got the ice. When they went back to the rooms, one of them looked out her peephole, and she saw him standing in front of the other girl's door. He hesitated there for a couple seconds, and then he walked away. So Nancy's flight arrives in Detroit at 8:45 p.m. She makes her way through the terminal. Nancy takes the shuttle from Detroit to the Hilton. It's a small little drive. On the shuttle is another flight attendant. They're talking. A man hops on, and he sits directly behind Nancy. There's no one else on the bus. There's a whole bunch of space, and he sits right by Nancy, and he gives her dirty looks.
What a weirdo.
Oh, you don't even know how fucking weird this guy is. The shuttle takes them to the Hilton. They get off the bus. Nancy and the other woman sign in, grab their keys, and they walk to the 3rd floor. The woman that's with Nancy says, hey, let's ride back tomorrow morning at 8 to the airport together. Nancy's like, okay. They say goodbye. Nancy walks farther down the hall. She is room 354, the room right next to the stairway. At 9 o'clock, the man in room 353 heard a scream, followed by another loud scream. He opened his door, he looked in the hallway, he didn't see anything, so he sat back in his room and he just continued to watch TV, and he went to bed.
He didn't call the front desk or anything?
No.
Like, I heard a woman screaming?
No. I know, some people are nosy, and then some people do nothing.
I try to put myself in that situation, like, what would I do?
I bet you I've sat through a few screams.
Would I call?
It's gone.
I'm thinking I would call the front desk at least.
But nobody really thinks, oh my God, a serial killer is probably killing someone right now.
So I'd at least make a phone call.
But everybody always thinks somebody else is going to call.
It's true.
Anyway, at 10:30 that night, a male flight attendant sees something odd through his window. He witnesses a man carrying a maroon-colored piece of luggage. Northwest gave luggage to their employees, so this man knew that it was Northwest luggage. The way the man was carrying the luggage to his car in the parking lot was under his arms, and the witness that saw that said, No. Us flight attendants do not carry our bags under our arms. We roll them. The witness also stated that he knew the man with the luggage was not a flight attendant by the way he dressed, because he had no sense of fashion. I'm not making this up, okay, for the record. Flight attendants, especially the males, have a strong sense of fashion.
Okay.
That's what he said.
Because he probably had a strong sense of fashion.
Yes, and he also said the pilots have no sense of fashion. The man carrying the suitcase's fashion was so bad, he had his pant legs rolled up 5 inches, and the witness was like, no, a pilot wouldn't even dress like that. That is what he noticed. The man carrying the luggage walked all the way back to the end of the parking lot. He had parked at the farthest area you could park. He throws the luggage into the trunk of his car. Then he walks all the way back to the hotel, and he leaves his trunk open. The man walks back and forth a total of 5 times from the hotel room to his trunk, carrying bundles.
Can't you get one of those carts so you only have to make one trip out to your car?
Especially when it's
February.
It was 14 degrees outside. The next morning at 8 o'clock, Nancy's friend and coworkers waiting for her, and Nancy never shows.
Oh, Nancy.
Around noon that same day, the cleaning lady came to room 354. She opened the door even though there was a do not disturb sign on it. The room was dark except for the TV was on. She saw Nancy on the bed and she could tell Nancy was dead, so she went and got the authorities. The police arrived shortly after that, and this is what they saw. And if you don't like something graphic, just fast forward. There were 2 beds in the room. There was blood everywhere. It was all over the walls, all over the chairs, on the floor. Mostly, though, it was on the first bed. It appears that Nancy was killed on one bed, then carried over to the next bed with the sheets and all. Nancy had fought hard. She had defensive cuts on her hands that went all the way to her bones. She was placed purposely on her stomach, intentionally posed by having pillows prop up her rear bottom into the air with her legs apart. A bath mat was placed over her head. She was raped while she was alive, and then she was raped after death.
Oh.
The killer rubbed semen all over her buttocks. Nancy had been bound. She'd been beaten about the face. A large man's athletic sock had been put in her mouth. The sock was so big that her mouth couldn't close, and it was restrictive on her breathing. Not to the point where it would kill her, but it made it really hard. The killer had, quote-unquote, played with Nancy. He poked her in the face repeatedly with the tip of the knife. He carved a Z in her breast. He sawed at her neck and almost decapitated her. She bled out. Her cause of death was bleeding.
I really don't know what to say to that.
After the killer was done, he took a shower. They found traces of blood in the bathtub. The killer took her luggage, her clothes, her ID. He even took her wedding ring off of her finger. Everything Nancy had was completely missing except for a belt and one button from her uniform. The crime scene specialist stated, and this is a quote, "The violence hung in the air. It shouted out at you," quote. Nancy's husband, Art, was notified, of course, by the police, and he described himself as going into a blind rage and deep depression for over 6 months.
I'm so sad for Art.
So he decided to make it his goal, his mission, to raise public awareness of what happened to Nancy, and he did everything he possibly could to keep his wife's case in the spotlight for years. He put up billboards, flyers. He was on Current Affair, Inside Edition, Maury Povich. Unfortunately, though, Nancy's case went cold. When Margaret Eby's son saw the news about Nancy, he immediately thought of his mother and her murder and the similarities between them. He contacted the Flint police, but they blew him off. He wrote a letter to Art. In his letter to Art, he states, "I think these crimes are connected." Art sent the letter on to the Romulus Police Department, which was the police department for the Detroit Metro Airport, and they took it more seriously. In the months following Nancy's death, the police did a really thorough investigation, but they came up with no leads. Years passed. Nancy's case became cold just like Margaret's. In 2001, a cold case unit was formed by the Michigan State Police, and they got some funding to investigate old cases.
I didn't know this happened.
Of course, you can imagine Nancy and Margaret's case is going to be a big priority because the cases were brutal.
Yeah, they're pretty brutal.
Brutal. They ran Margaret's DNA through CODIS. You know what CODIS is? Of course you know what CODIS is. CODIS is now DNA. We're into the DNA time. The police ran Margaret's perpetrator's DNA through CODIS, and there was no match. The police ran Nancy's perpetrator's DNA through CODIS, and there was no match. However, there was a match between the two cases.
So they're saying it was the same person.
Same person. Don't know who it is. Whoever killed them did not have his DNA taken for any known criminal cases. In September of 2001, the integrated APHIS system that I talked about earlier was developed. The FBI now had a program in place where fingerprints from all over the United States were stored, computerized, digitalized, and could be matched up with all the fingerprints all over. The partial print found in Margaret Eby's bathroom was given to the FBI to run it through its system. And it took until February 6th of 2002. But then the FBI came back and said, "We've got a hit. We got a match." Do you know what time it is?
It's time for a shameless plug.
We'll be right back. And we're back.
We're back.
Do you know what time it is now that we're back?
Time for lunch?
No. Well, that's always a good idea. Let's get to know Jeffrey Wayne Gorton. In 2002, he was 39 years old. He was married to Sandra, and they had a station wagon and 2 kids, a boy and a girl.
Oh, he had a family.
He had a family. The police actually got his DNA to confirm a match by going to the roller rink where his family was skating for a school event. It's kind of a funny story. The detective was following the family, and he didn't know where they were going to go. So this detective's this big guy. He's bald. He's got hoop earrings in and a leather jacket. And the family pulls into the roller rink. And he doesn't have any kids with him.
Right. He's not very incognito.
Yeah. So he goes in after them, and he's paying. And the guy at the rink's like, where are your kids? And he's like, they're inside. Then the detective ends up being kind of the creepy guy that's there with no kids.
Right.
Jeff sits down his Mountain Dew, and the detective comes over and picks it up, and people saw him. And Jeff saw him. And Jeff tells his wife, this guy just took my half full cup of Mountain Dew. Like, can't he just get his own?
Right. Like,
he literally told his wife that. Well, the DNA was a match, obviously. This is what I know about Jeff. He was born in November of 1962. He came from a large family. He had a ton of brothers. Jeff met his first wife, Dawn, at Roller World in 1981. They were both students in high school. Dawn got pregnant, they got married, and they had little Jeffrey Jr. Jeff joined the Navy, and he was part of the nuclear program that they had in Orlando at the naval base there. Jeff was not really happy about being married. He really didn't want to be married to his wife. He only married her because she was very persistent and very pregnant. Again, they moved from Michigan to Orlando in 1982. In Orlando, there was a super freak. Maybe it's just a freak at this time.
Maybe. Low-level freak.
You let me know when I tell you. On April 8th, a man grabbed a woman in a grocery store parking lot, but she was able to get away. On April 29th, 1983, a woman named Marie had just gotten groceries. She was pulling into her parking lot of her apartment complex. It was very well lit. She opened up her trunk to get the groceries out, and when she turned around, there was a man in her face. The man, he reached down, he lifted her skirt, then he grabbed her lower legs, knocking her to the ground, and he dragged her to the dumpster by her ankles. While at the dumpster, she started screaming, and people heard, and he ripped off her slip and ran away. The next day, a woman named Barb was getting groceries out of her car, and she got attacked. The attacker threw her to the ground, he kicked her, and he ripped off her slip. On May 6th of 1983, at the naval base, there were two women walking, minding their own business, and Jeff dropped to his knees, reached his hand up one of their skirts, and ripped off one of the girls' slips. Numerous women came forward to the police stating that a man kept trying to pull their underwear and slips off of them. In Orlando, Jeff lived in a trailer park with Dawn and little Jeff Jr. The manager of the trailer park kept getting complaints about women's undergarments being stolen or turning up missing.
Like at the trailer park?
Yes.
Okay.
One particular day, there was a storm coming, and Jeff and Dawn's trailer window was broken, so the manager went to fix it. No one was home, so he just helped himself inside. A little creepy in and of itself. Dawn is at home because she's up in Michigan visiting her family. The manager finds women's panties laying out, and there are bags of them. There's an assortment. He's got all sizes, shapes. He's got pantyhose, bras, underwear.
It's like Victoria's Secret in there.
Yeah. The manager notices that the manager's daughter's missing underwear are on Jeff's bed.
Oh, gross.
He calls the police. Jeff gets arrested. Dawn comes back from Michigan. Jeff's arrested. She stays with him. After Jeff's arrest, he confesses to the police, yeah, I did it. I have a problem.
No shit, you have a problem.
He said, I know I did something wrong and I want your help. I just hope I get a chance to prove that I can change. The judge releases him on bond. He gets, and this is a quote, a less than honorable discharge from the Navy, end quote, in September of 1983. I'm not sure what that means.
I know. I thought there was only honorable and dishonorable discharges.
The same night that he gets discharged from the Navy, while he's out on bond, a woman hears a rustling sound from her window. She looks over, and there's an arm reaching through.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
She screamed, and the man left. The police came. They saw that Someone had pried open the screen, and they found fingerprints, and they matched super freak Jeff. His bond was revoked, and Dawn left him. Dawn later on tells us a couple interesting things. She saw Jeff removing women's underwear from behind the wall paneling once.
So he's storing them in the wall?
Honey,
why you got panties back there?
our wall has panties in it. What is that, maybe?
Insulation?
Insulation? Okay. But she also told a story of how he was supposed to pick her up one time at 5 a.m. from work. She worked at Taco Bell. He didn't show up. She had to walk home at 5 a.m. I'd be pissed.
Oh, super duper pissed.
Super duper pissed. She gets home. She finds their baby locked in a closet.
Oh, my God.
And Jeff comes in a few minutes later and says he was out for a jog. Jeff didn't jog.
She didn't leave him then?
No.
After finding panties in the wall and the baby in the closet?
No.
Okay.
Jeff eventually got sentenced to 4.5 years in prison, but he got out in 22 months. He got out on Christmas Eve in 1985, and he moved back home to Michigan with his family. Dawn, at this point, thought about maybe reconciling with him.
Ugh.
She met with Jeff, and her mom came along, and they were talking. And during the conversation, Jeff told her while in prison, he had a boyfriend. Because he was, quote, looking for sensation, end quote. That was a deal breaker for Dawn.
Yeah.
Now we're into 1986, and that is the year that Margaret Eby was killed. In 86, a woman named Tony, who was the neighbor of Jeff's brother Greg, Tony met Jeff. They had conversations. Then Jeff began stopping by every day. Then one day, Tony came home, and there were flowers in her house with a note. Our friend Jeff, he had completely cleaned the house. He washed the laundry, he folded it, and he put it away for her.
He came in while she was gone and did all this. I was just sitting here thinking, how would I feel about that?
I'd be completely and utterly freaked out. I mean, he cleaned her fucking house.
I mean, I'm not mad about that part. I mean, if someone went into my house and cleaned it, I mean, yay. But that's crossing personal boundaries,
Yes,
for
is.
sure.
Tony confronted Jeff and told him to bug off. She got a padlock for her doors. She came home one day and the padlock was broken off.
Oh.
She decided to move.
Can you blame her?
No. In 1986, 2 weeks after the murder of Margaret, Jeff met his second wife, Sandra. She worked as an office assistant in a medical lab. She was a couple years older than him. They settled down. They bought a house in Flint, Michigan in 1990, and they got married. He was apparently a good husband.
Really?
Well, I mean,
besides killing
if
people.
you could compartmentalize
Yeah.
that certain one compartment. Jeff worked at his parents' sprinkler company. His family had a sprinkler company that went and installed sprinklers. So he worked a lot during the summer and the spring, and then in the winter, he was unemployed. Jeff and Sandra, as I told you before, had a son and daughter. Jeff would take the kids to school in the morning and then pick them up from the bus. He helped them with their homework. He'd clean the house. He'd cook dinner. He went to church every Sunday.
He seemed perfect.
He never raised his voice at his wife, and she only ever heard him even swear once. He was never violent. The police found out that the sprinkler company that Jeff worked for was the sprinkler company for the Mott estate. Coincidence? I think not. In 1993, a woman came to the police in Flint and said that she was being stalked by Jeff. He would follow her to and from work, and one time he even showed up at her attorney's office. Jeff said it's strictly coincidence. And the woman dropped the charges. In 1995, Jeff was actually arrested. A security guard monitoring the surveillance cameras at this department store caught him lifting up a woman's skirt and staring at her panties as she was bent over. The woman didn't even notice because Jeff was so subtle.
What is this staring at the panties? I don't even get what the thrill is.
He was arrested and he pled guilty to a lesser charge of disorderly conduct. The police said he seemed very apologetic. He was embarrassed. A funny note is when they searched Jeff's house, they found the attorney that represented him for that case with the department store, that attorney's wife's underwear in Jeff's house.
Shut up!
He visited his attorney to talk about the case and stole the guy's wife's underwear while he was there. God almighty. The police searched Jeff's house, as I stated, and they found under Jeff's side of the bed women's underwear, bras, pantyhose, and a church flyer that had a picture of Jeff and his family.
Mixed in with
the underwear and bras. Buried in his closet, there was a storage bin filled with panties, underwear, nylons, and they had labels on them.
And his wife didn't notice this?
No, she didn't. They described it as being very buried in the back. The first search of the house yielded 833 different women's undergarments.
833.
Labeled.
Damn.
One of the cops said he never thought he'd get tired at looking at women's underwear, but he was.
After 833 of them.
They ended up hauling away over 3,000 women's garments.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they called in 50 women that they could specifically identify to come in and look at the clothes. These women range from preteens to 7 years old.
Wow. Okay, I'm not trying to be gross here, but were they all clean?
I don't know. But they were labeled. Do you want to hear some of the labels?
Yes, I do.
Now imagine there's a pair of underwear, and then it's a nice tag on the underwear saying something such as Linda, Halloween 96. Sandra's mom.
He had a pair of his wife's mom's underpants.
Yes. Randy's wife. Cindy, Sandra's cousin. Citizens Bank back lot in car. Clothesline. Sweetie from across the street.
Oh. Sweetie from across the street put her house up for sale right after this, I'm sure.
Older daughter, black pack. Younger daughter, brown pack. Mom, gray pack. Steve's Deb.
Steve's Deb.
I believe Steve is his brother. Those are just some. So you get an idea. He had his niece's underwear there, his mother-in-law's underwear, his sister-in-law's underwear. His one brother confronted him and said, Dude, you took my daughter and my wife's underwear. And he said, I treated every woman equally.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Jeff's parents and his brothers pleaded ignorance to Jeff's kooky, weird behavior. They said they didn't know Jeff had a problem, even though his parents bailed him out in Florida. Jeff's brother Brian said that Jeff was always the good son, so he was just stunned by this. However, other people that worked at the sprinkler company said that was bullshit. They said that Jeff's brothers referred to Jeff as
the panty sniffer?
The panty sniffer. This was behind Jeff's back. Apparently, Jeff was always commenting about women. For example, he would say, what do you think the type of underwear that waitress is wearing?
Who would he comment this to?
Any guy with him, all the time. Co-workers of Jeff would say they would be driving with Jeff to go do a job for the sprinklers, and he would see a woman, get fixated on her. At one point, drove 6 miles out of his way to follow this woman while his co-workers in the van with him, missing the stop they're supposed to go to because he couldn't stop obsessing over this woman. He would often miss turns that he was supposed to take, go through stop signs, because he'd be so fixated on a woman he saw. His nephew worked with him in the summer at the sprinkler system, and his nephew referred to him as Uncle Perv.
Appropriate.
Apparently, Jeff's preference was classy women. He did not like trashy women. There were complaints that came into the sprinkler company from clients and customers stating that Jeff had stolen underwear or gone through drawers or been inappropriately in the house. Jeff denied all these complaints and nothing was ever done.
Oh, stop it, man. You know you did it.
Jeff's sister-in-law, Sarah, told the police of some incidents that occurred in 86 to 89 in which her own neighbor would see Jeff peeking in her windows. It wasn't just Jeff's brothers that referred to him as Panty Sniffer. That was his nickname behind his back through the whole company. I told you the police investigated Jeff's house and went through everything. By the time they were done, they found enough women's garments to fill 58 large cardboard boxes, 4 large Rubbermaid containers, 3 suitcases, and 13 giant brown bags. You know, the ones that you put the leaves in?
Oh my God, really those?
All of that together is how much women's clothes Jeff stole. He stole from the lieutenant governor's wife's drawers, from the local judges, friends, family, and I told you, his own attorney's wife. For all we know, our underwear could be in that 3,000.
I know, seriously.
Really?
I was alive in 1986.
In Michigan.
I was a young teenager.
Yeah, me too. Besides finding all of the women's undergarments, they found some videos. They are so twisted and bizarre. But there's no murders or anything, so I can describe these videos.
They're just filled with funky stuff, right?
They are funky stuff. Oh, shit. I can't wait. Okay. Well, the opening scene for one video, because there's multiple.
The opening scene, I love that. Okay.
Is a spy cam hidden near the ground level of a toilet.
Oh, I knew it. I knew you were going to say toilet.
Yeah, toilet.
I knew it.
Women going to the bathroom. That's one scene. Scene 2 is a shot of his neighbor in her bikini top riding the lawnmower, mowing her lawn, and he's zooming in on her breasts. Then he has bits and pieces from America's Funniest Home Videos, and they're the videos where the old ladies, like, pants fall down.
Stop it.
And their underwear shows. You know those? He's got a bunch of those clips. One is where a girl's slip falls down and her butt cheeks shown. And then after that, he has a rape scene from a movie.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Then it's the Christmas videos of his family, in which he's zooming in on the women's crotches.
Wow. I'm speechless.
Then after that, he's got another rape scene. And then after the rape scene, there's a legs pantyhose ad. And then after that, he's got a scene from a movie in which a hijacker jumps up, puts a gun to a female flight attendant's head. The second video are family videos, and they are of his daughter at her gymnastics competition.
Okay.
And you can imagine he's zooming in the crotches. And then another one is his kids at a school function, and he's zooming in on women's crotches at the kids' school function. Then the video goes to a small part of CSI, in which the investigators put a light on a mirror, and then it says, when they put the light on the mirror, I killed 5 women. But this is the part that's exceptionally fucked up. It's just easier if I read the summary than try to summarize it myself. Are you ready?
Yes.
Jeff Gorton is lying on the bed, staring into the camera in the entertainment center. He has on large round glasses, looking a bit professional, but for the white bra he's wearing.
Oh, no.
And the pantyhose and the women's panties he's also wearing. He removes the pantyhose, places them to the side of the camera, picks up another pair, and puts them on. He crawls forward on the bed. He rises up on his knees. He rubs his hairy belly, filling the screen. He rubs his belly above the crotch in a circular motion for a few seconds. He lies back, pulls off the pantyhose, and puts on a third pair of pantyhose. There's a gaping hole in the right thigh. He rubs his belly some more in the same circular motion. Then he pulls off those hose and puts on a fourth pair. He rubs his belly some more. He extends a leg to show the bottom of his foot to the camera. He waves to the camera. Then he takes off the hose. He puts on a fifth pair. He rubs his belly. Then he takes them off. He puts on a pair of white pantyhose. He gets up. He walks towards the camera. He pulls the hose well above his belly button, walks back, lies back down on the bed, takes them off, gets another pair of hose. These have huge holes in the calves. They also have a hole in the crotch. He pulls his limp penis out through the hole, walks over to the camera, adjusts the zoom in the camera. He goes back down. The camera now focusing on his groin. He masturbates. This continues for 15 minutes because his penis is limp.
Could you imagine you're the police officer looking at this for the first time? That poor police officer, whoever he or she was.
Now he has put on a skin-tight camisole. He's got one leg on the chair, and he's got the other one down. And then he puts on a black teddy. He puts a slip over the teddy. He gets back on the chair. He's posing. He keeps rubbing his belly. I don't know why. Then he put on a pink frilly negligee and resumes masturbating. Then the video has more rape scenes in it, peeping Tom scenes.
Now, are these scenes from, like, movies?
Yes.
Oh, he's edited them in.
Yes, he's an editor. Then it goes to his wife.
Oh.
And he is secretly taping his wife. She's naked. She's coming out of the shower. She doesn't know the camera's on her. He films them making love.
Oh.
He films rubbing her feet with nylons. He would insist on fixing any of the holes in her nylons. He would go get nail polish. And they apparently liked this. I'm guessing he's the one that puts the holes in the nylons without her knowing. So I think he's editing probably lots of different conversations with his wife into the parts that focus on pantyhose.
Wow.
He would, in the morning, put on pantyhose, and then he'd put his jeans on, and then he'd leave.
They are so uncomfortable. I don't know why anybody would choose to wear them.
I don't know, but to him, it's like his dirty secret.
Yes,
that
exactly.
He's wearing pantyhose under his pants. One of the last parts of the video is him helping her pick out her nylons in the morning before work. Then she leaves the room, and he pulls down his blue jeans to expose the pantyhose to the camera. He got off on seeing himself in pantyhose.
I mean, again, we're not trying to kink shame anyone, but
his wife did admit she did know he had a bit of a pantyhose fetish.
I wonder what happened to him as a child.
I don't know. He doesn't say.
I would love to know.
While Jeff's in jail, you can imagine the shock that his poor wife went through on her kids. Jeff would write her letters from prison, and she shared them with the author. So I'm going to do just a few excerpts of it to give you an idea of who her Jeff was versus Nancy Ludwig and Margaret Eby's Jeff. In one of the letters he wrote to her, "I've spent many nights asking God to forgive me for all I've done. I've been reading the Bible, studying it, getting myself right with God. I know He forgives me for my sins. The Bible says so. I only hope that you can forgive me too." He wrote further on, "There's one part of me that needs work, but I'm mostly the man you've always known."
Yeah, that one part is a deal breaker. Sorry. That one part is a huge problem.
He also said that he knew he was going to go to heaven because I've asked Jesus to forgive my sins and have accepted him into my life, even more so than before. I'm just glad in my heart that all you guys are God's children too. So I know we will all be in heaven together forever.
I'm sure she's thrilled at the idea of spending eternity in heaven with Jeff.
He goes on in his letters to describe to his wife a little bit about what was going on in his mind when he did some of the stuff. "It's like it brought out the feminine side of me. And females are more loving and giving and understanding than men. Yes, there was a part of me that the devil had a hold of, but the rest of me loved you with everything in the world. Sorry for all I've done. Love forever, Jeff. XO, XO, XO."
I feel like I'm going to throw up. Don't do that. Don't give me that bullshit.
Jeff denies all culpability for the murders. Eventually there's a trial. The first trial was for Nancy. The trial started in August of 2002. It lasted 4 days. And Jeff has a court-appointed attorney. Do you want to know what Jeff said to his court-appointed attorney about the crimes?
Absolutely.
He had nothing to do with Margaret Eby's crime. However, he did state with Nancy Ludwig, Jeff says him and his friend, whose last name is Kleppinger, were going to go and try to get lucky on Sunday night, on the night of Nancy's murder. They decided they basically wanted to get laid. And Jeff said they see Nancy Ludwig at the Hilton. Don't know why these guys are at the Hilton. And they convince Nancy to have sex with them.
Okay.
Within the 15 minutes from her getting off of the shuttle to her room. Nancy says, "Yeah.
I'm down.
I am down. Nice to meet you. Let's go have sex." Jeff says he has consensual sex with Nancy, and he goes in to take a shower. While he's taking a shower, his friend brutally murders Nancy. Jeff walks out of the shower and he's like, oh my God, we should call the police or 911. And his friend says, oh, no, we can't do that. So Jeff felt like he had no choice but to help clean up the scene. However, this friend that Jeff is claiming is his friend, Kleppinger, didn't know Jeff. They didn't know each other. But Jeff's whole story was full of shit. Mm-hmm. But Jeff had convinced his attorney that that was true until his attorney went to meet with him one Sunday night. Jeff's attorney went to see him in jail during the 4-day trial because he had some quote-unquote hard questions for Jeff. That day, the medical examiner took the stand and described all the wounds on Nancy Ludwig. She had a total of 45 injuries. And his attorney realized Jeff's full of shit. And he wanted to get some answers because he was going to put Jeff on the stand to say that story. So he visits Jeff in jail. And Jeff lost it. Snapped. He said he hated women. He'd murdered many women, including the victim. He would gladly murder more women if given the chance. And he told him, you know, that whole story I told you about Nancy Ludwig's death, that's a lie. And he was irate.
Wow.
He killed people in Florida and Ohio. His attorney left the jail, stepped onto the sidewalk, and vomited. So basically the next day, the defense attorney rests his case. Jeff was found guilty and sentenced to life without parole. There was a second trial, and that one was for Margaret. And instead of having a trial, again, Jeff just admitted he killed Margaret. I think it's very interesting that Jeff came right out and said he'd killed so many women, because we only know of 2. So if there are any unsolved cases with a similar MO, someone please contact the police and talk about Jeffrey Gorton, because there is no doubt in my mind he is a serial killer.
Well, thank you, Talia.
You're welcome, Tanya.
Another horrifying tale.
Yes, it is another horrifying tale. And you know what I have for you next week? Another horrifying tale. Do you want to share with our beautiful listeners where they can find us?
Of course. You can find us on the web. Our website is tntcrimes.com.
Don't forget to hit subscribe, and then you can get notifications every time we send out our new podcasts. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.